Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday at 10. So excited to have one of the most interesting experts on pandemic parenting. Such a complicated and varied topic for all of us. Different times we have different issues regarding the pandemic. So we are so excited to have Amanda with us. Amanda Zelahusky, which is the co-founder of Pandemic Parenting and is a professor at Valparaiso University, one of our favorite local universities that has such wonderful things going for it, always has, always will, and has been very supportive of Doombrook. So again, I'm Jean Ann Cannon, the director of Doombrook. We have Miss Lisa Scheller, the director of our development, who does a fabulous job of outreach and with people like Amanda that on Tuesday and 10, we like to feature those we collaborate with and help our children and our families in the community to be stronger, particularly during this time. Very briefly, Doombrook is child abuse prevention and intervention. We have 4 main programs. Our prevention is where Healthy Families goes into the homes and teaches parenting skills. Public ed goes into the schools and empowers children to take care of themselves with body safety. And our parent and family education program, our new program, is a class for parents that they can sign up all for free. And we do a lot of it virtually now, given the pandemic. Our last is the intervention piece, is our Child Advocacy Center, where we interview children of suspected cases of abuse, and that's where we coordinate with Department of Child Services. So with that, again, Doombrook's 32 years old. Lisa does a wonderful job in development as far as trying to educate people what we do and trying to keep us going with fundraising and that sort. So Lisa, do you have any news for us today that you want to share with listeners?
Yeah, so good morning and welcome, Amanda. We are so happy that you're joining us today. And as Jean Ann had mentioned, we do have 4 very strong programs going here at Doombrook that we are out making sure that the community, our parents and families are receiving all the resources that they need to become healthy families. Just wanted to mention that if you would like to donate to Doombrook, we are always taking donations. If you feel that you have a need to give back, you can either donate by texting Tuesday at 10 to 41444, or you can go to our website where you'll find lots of different resources that Doombrook has on their website. And there's a donate button right in the middle of the page that you can just click on that, and it will take you to our donation site to make that donation. We also we have a Home Depot in which you can donate items such as diapers and wipes and different items, essentials that parents would probably need to parent with their children. So if you're interested in making any kind of that donation, you can reach out to us and be happy to give you more information about that. It is going to be Child Abuse Awareness Month next month of April, and we're coming up with a lot of fun events that we're going to be doing throughout LaPorte County and Porter County. So you'll be able to get more information about that on our Facebook page, as well as through our email, we have an email newsletter that goes out, as well as on our website. But anytime you want to give back to Doombrook, you can either reach out to me at lisa2@doombrook.org, or just call our Doombrook office and we can put you in touch with whoever you need to get in touch with.
Great, Lisa, thanks so much for that update. So, Amanda, thank you again, really. I know you're very busy. We sure appreciate you being here today. So tell us a little bit, Amanda, about, being co-founder of the Pandemic Parenting and VU, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, to both of you, and for all of the great work that you're doing at Doombrook. Very needed and critical work, which I'll talk about in just a second. Is actually the work that you do is very much part of the inspiration for how pandemic parenting came to be. So as you mentioned, I'm an associate professor of psychology at Valparaiso University. I've been there about 10 years in the psychology department, and I am trained as a clinical and forensic psychologist and an attorney. And so my focus is primarily on child trauma and child maltreatment, and how some of these early adverse experiences go on to lead to things like being at risk, being involved with the juvenile justice system and criminal justice system. So I spend a lot of time in forensic settings, talking with folks about their early experiences. And so, so in that work, as the pandemic was sort of coming and we started to have inklings of this, it's really interesting to be a child trauma researcher and, think about most of the crises we've been able to study in my field, right? Hurricane Katrina, 9/11, school shootings, we can only really study the aftermath of them. We don't know that they're coming. We don't know they're going to happen before they do. And this was this really unique situation where we kind of knew this was coming. And so, in that space, as somebody who thinks about trauma and the effects of these kinds of crises, to be able to know it's coming and study how people are doing right before it happens and then kind of follow them throughout the period of time it's happening is a very rare opportunity. And so, myself, many social scientists recognize that and, sort of dove in to study this. And for me, it was partly recognizing this is going to get really bad. I'm a working parent. I have 3 young boys. They're 11, 8, and 5. And I'm not sure how we're going to do this. And if I'm struggling with that, resourced, I'm married, privileged on many levels, and we're terrified of how this is going to go and the stress, what's that going to be like for our most vulnerable families? And what that means when you work in this space, as you both know very well, is that you have kids locked in homes, very stressed parents. They're not in school, which tend to be sort of the eyes and ears watching out for kids in the most vulnerable and disadvantaged situations. And so I was very worried about our child maltreatment rates spiking and what this was going to mean for families. And so that was why I launched a study right as the pandemic was beginning. We followed about 450 families over the first 3 months of the pandemic, really trying to look at how is this impacting children's mental and behavioral health, and how is it impacting parents' stress levels? What are those dynamics looking like? So I did that study, found a lot of the things you would probably imagine, right? Parents with younger kids were really struggling. Parents with older kids were struggling in different ways, worried about isolation, depression, things like that. And a number of, as I said, my colleagues did these studies. So I had a colleague who did a similar study in Canada and in the United States. And so we started talking this summer as we were both looking at our results. I think we all thought, well, we could hang in there for a few months. The pandemic will be over by the summer and we'll get back to normal, right? Like we all were so naive and optimistic. And as it became clear that we were going to be entering round 2 of this, that as the fall term was coming, as kids were supposed to be back in school and they weren't going to be, like, how are we going to do this again? And so my colleague, Dr. Lindsay Malloy at Ontario Tech University, and I put our heads together and just said, we're sitting on data that can be helpful to people right now. And the normal scientific process means we're going to be lucky if this gets published in a year, if not more. And so maybe there are ways we can be helpful right now to parents, with the training and background that we have, the access to a lot of experts in the field that we have. So that's how Pandemic Parenting was born. We hosted our first webinar the first week of August, focused on decision-making about sending your kids back to school, depending on the context. And what we've really been trying to do is translate a lot of the science into ways that is very, ways that are accessible, relatable to parents, useful right now. Because a lot of times people just don't have access to this kind of information and we take that for granted. And that's a problem. Scientists are not always great communicators. And so as both trained psychologists and scholars in the field, we just thought maybe this is a way to be helpful. So launched this nonprofit. We've hosted webinars every other week. So bi-weekly webinars covering a host of topics. We just did our 15th one last night, focused on working moms. We've covered everything from screen time with your kids to co-parenting and single parenting through the pandemic, how to deal with the holidays, anti-racist parenting, mom guilt, what does good enough parenting look like? How do we build resilience in our kids? And so we really just tried to stay in front of what are the topics families are struggling with most right now, and how can we get this information to them in really accessible ways, always free, available anytime. When people can't join any of the webinars, we always post recordings. So that's really just been our focus. We didn't mean to accidentally start a nonprofit in the middle of a pandemic when we both have full-time jobs and families, right. But this is a way we could be useful.
Oh my gosh, Amanda. So tell me again, if someone wanted to view those webinars, how would they do that?
Yeah, so our website is www.pandemic-parent.org. So that's the easiest way to go and find all of the recordings. All of the resources are posted there. We also would encourage them to follow any of our social media channels, which you can find on the website, or just, search for Pandemic Parenting on any of, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Because part of what we do on social media, we recognize that parents are busy just like us. They don't have time to sit through a 1-hour webinar. Right. So we've been so fortunate to work with some amazing, former VU students, early career professionals that have created lots of these great, snack bite videos. So 1-minute videos of the top hits, the best quotes, the best advice, sort of nuggets of wisdom that come from these webinars. And so that as parents have a quick second to scroll social media while they're waiting in the car pickup line, or they're locking themselves in the closet for a quick mommy timeout, like I have been known to do, that you just, you get this quick nugget of wisdom, or somebody reassuring you like, hey, you're doing okay. Nobody knows what they're doing right now. And so we've done that. We partnered with Zulily, the online retailer, to put out a series of blogs to really help parents. And so those you can also find on our website. So we're just trying to do things in ways that are quick and accessible, that can give people credible information. It's hard to weed through all of the resources out there and know, screen time is a great example. Like, how can I tell whether, this expert is correct when I also saw this headline saying this is going to ruin my kid's brain? So we're distilling that for you and trying to just get you right to what is the answer to the question I'm Googling in the middle of the night.
Right. Wow. And so the top, if you would call the top, not to put you on the spot, but the top webinars that you think were the most helpful, or topics, issues, would be what? What we talk a lot about when we're talking about the pandemic is, first of all, for parents to recognize that they are having a problem. General parenting is stressful, but to admit, on a good day, but then to admit that, gosh, this is affecting me as a parent and I need to do something about it. And then to even take the next step to reach out to even Google or look at a webinar. What would you say are some of the top issues that our listeners could relate to?
Yeah, I think probably one of the most popular, one of the ones we have quoted the most over the last 7 or 8 months is the one we did with Dr. Bruce Perry, who is an internationally renowned child trauma psychiatrist. He's a brilliant man and does incredible work in this space. And so he was so generous to join us on the topic of building resilience. And so he just was giving parents, a lot of reminders that, what is most important for kids right now? They need to feel safe and they need to feel loved. And so all the ways that you're beating yourself up for not being able to do this, or, gosh, did I have my kid in front of a screen too much tomorrow? Or, I was a little irritable when I was trying to get work done and they were interrupting me with their remote learning question. He was just really great about kind of framing that through the science and what we know kids need, especially in a time of crisis. And so to adjust our expectations accordingly, to not hold yourself to the same standards of who you were a year ago before the pandemic, of who your kids were. We're all different right now. And so that was a really great one. I definitely encourage people to check that one out. Another one I think could be helpful was one we did fairly recently, focused very specifically on teen mental health. So we had a lot of requests for that topic. We're seeing really concerning trends as far as teen suicide rates, depression and anxiety rates increasing. And so isolation, withdrawal, all those kinds of things. And so that was a topic that was very popularly requested. And so for that one, we actually had a teen moderator. So one of the things we do in these webinars is we always have a moderator that is a current graduate student or early career scholar in the field, really trying to amplify and give them a platform as well for some of these rising stars. And so for that one, we said, wait a minute, if we're going to be talking about teens, let's have a teen, really keep us accountable and to call us out when we're talking about pie in the sky ideas that may not work. And she was phenomenal. She's local. She goes to Valparaiso High School. And so we were very lucky to have her. And so there were amazing tips and information shared in that one from some really brilliant experts in working with adolescents, including Dr. Chris Trapeau, who's now the head of Indiana Suicide Prevention. And so he was able to come and share some of his expertise with us. So I'd say those are two of probably the most relevant to a lot of the families that you work with. Maybe the one on mom guilt as well, because I think a lot of us struggle with that. And it was just so great to have that guest expert, Dr. Sharon Lamb, who wrote a book called The Good Enough Mother. come and remind us all what good enough parenting is and that you're doing okay. And hey, this is our first pandemic. None of us know what we're doing. So.
Right. For some weird reason, when you say that, Amanda, I think of the world navigating through World War II or even Vietnam, that crazy era of the 60s, and people didn't know what to do or if they were doing right and what was their best and not best. And as you say, the guilt. So, yeah.
Well, right. It's the unknowns crashing up against the culture that we've found ourselves in, where related to judgment and social media and parent shaming around how you should or shouldn't be raising your kids. So yeah, I think it's this unfortunate mashup of both that have made this particularly challenging, because we don't know what we're doing in this global crisis, but we're in this culture of, well, it looks like everybody else has figured it out just fine. When I look at their Instagram feed, how come I'm the only one that feels like I'm screwing it up? When that's not reality, of course.
Wow, isn't that the truth? I mean, the beauty and the ills of social media and, just the whole to wear face masks to not wear face masks way back when and now. And what I think will be very interesting, it'll be interesting to hear what your future topics are, but navigating back into society, not only physically.
That's right.
You, but emotionally, there's been some really silver linings of the pandemic. As far as value judgments and where were we and where are we? And maybe I like not being so crazy socially.
Right. That's right.
But, as you say, in social media, you see everyone else going here and there. You drive by a restaurant and there's a zillion cars and you're like, what do they know that I don't know?
That's right. I know. And especially in a situation where we don't have clear answers. I mean, this is one of the topics themes we've sort of come back to a lot in our conversations with parents is the psychological science concept of decision fatigue. And so not realizing that, why am I struggling so much when I can't even figure out what we're going to have for dinner? And so we've tried to help people understand, well, that's because you have been triaging and making decisions all day long in what feel like really risky, life or death maybe situations. Is it safe for me to go here? Can I do this? Will my kids be okay if this happens? Should I wear a mask or not? Can I go, and these are decisions without answers. And so when we feel like we've been triaging things all day long, and maybe for our work context too, what do I have to prioritize? I only have an hour while the kids are tied up doing this. And so what is most important for me to get done right now before I'm going to get interrupted again? Those are the kinds of decisions you're making all day long. So of course, when it gets to something simple, like what are we going to have for dinner? I just don't have anything left. Cognitively, I am so overloaded, but then I feel awful because it's like, why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? So we've been trying to help normalize and help people understand what this cognitive load has looked like for all of us. And like, no, you're not going crazy. No, you're not a bad parent, bad employee, bad student. Your system is overloaded because of the hypervigilant state you've had to be in for a really long period of time.
Oh my gosh. Amanda, you should get billboards all over the country with just that put on it. Seriously, I love that term, cognitive overload, because I think for those of us, as you just mentioned in the beginning of our talk, we have a lot going right in our lives and in place, but there are times where it feels like such an invasive overload. Like, why am I out of sorts?
Yes. Time is disoriented. Our routines are disrupted. There is no normalcy or equilibrium that we can get back to. And part of the challenge of this is that we're pretty resilient as a species, right? And we can do a lot of things for a period of time. But this has been the issue. We don't know when this is ending. And so it's like, I can do anything for a month. Okay, I'll suck it up, or a year or whatever. Just tell me when it's going to end and I'll figure it out. But I don't know when this is going to end. And my system cannot handle that. We are not meant to operate at this level of crisis for this sustained period of time. And that's why we're exhausted.
Right.
Wow.
Lisa, do you have any thoughts, questions you want to ask Amanda?
No, I just think that this is something that people really need to hear because, sometimes we feel like, again, that phrase that we hear, we're all in different boats, right? We're going through the same storm, but we're all in these different boats. And it looks like somebody else why are they doing much better than I'm doing? And when in reality, they're just trying to keep their head above water to look for the positives. So. I think,
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes about this comes from Father Gregory Boyle, who works with Homeboy Industries, has written several amazing books. He does a lot of gang intervention work. And he says, stand in awe at what people are carrying rather than in judgment at how they are carrying it.
Yeah.
And it's just such a great reminder, I think, exactly of what you said, Lisa, that, we are in different boats. We have different levels of stress and privilege and disadvantage. We have different access to things right now. Like, this is hard for everyone, but that looks differently for each of us. And so let's just keep trying to figure out how to support each other instead of judging at how you're carrying your load and how I'm carrying mine.
Right. Right. And I think, Amanda, I always, end the program by saying being kind to yourself and be kind to others. I tell the story, it had to be maybe 2 months in to the pandemic, maybe April or May, and I'm in the line, first in line, like early in the morning at a grocery store. And these two behind me almost fisticuffs over a silly issue, and not to go into it, but it reminded me how everyone is dealing with it differently. And I know the political climate's been interesting in the last 6 months, but to try to understand and be empathetic towards others, because as you say, Amanda, you never know what they're carrying.
That's right.
Really hard.
That's right. And more so than ever, most of us are carrying that behind closed doors right now. We don't have our villages. We don't have access to our support systems. We don't have these layers that usually help buffer those things. And so we're going through it, but we're also going through it, locked in homes without access to the safety nets.
Right. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. Is there anything else you would, a topic or an issue or a thought that you'd want to leave us with that you think would be important for the next, what is this? It's going to be March next month.
Yeah. No, I think what you both were sort of hitting on, it's just this idea of just please have grace for yourselves, for your kids. This is hard on them. It's hard on you as a parent. It's hard on all of us as a community. And so to please just give yourself some grace in this and not fight back against a lot of the guilt that you're feeling, because nobody knows how to do this. And again, we're doing the best we can. You are doing the best you can. We're going to figure it out. But I keep channeling my mantra throughout this has been in part probably because Disney Plus has been on loop in our house. But in Frozen 2, Anna sings a song about doing the next right thing. That's what's getting me through, is I just keep, what's the next right thing I need to do? And that's about as far as I can focus. And so just keep trying to do the next right thing.
Right. There you go.
And it really is just one day at a time, and just trying to figure out how we're going to get through today, and tomorrow's another day. And
we get do-overs as parents, right? Like we worry so much about screwing things up, and we get do-overs. And you asked about silver linings, Jeannie, and I think that's one, is that our kids have gotten to see a lot of us as parents working through conflict, working through stress, trying to figure out some of these challenges. And there are beautiful lessons in that, right? And things that they're getting to see and learn from us as parents as we show our resilience and model that for them in ways that I do think will help them in the long run too.
Oh, that's a great thought, Amanda. Having worked in drug and alcohol abuse treatment centers in the past and psychiatric hospital, I can remember parents with children that would be in our units would be all concerned about them missing academic work, when in fact it was their emotional state that was really needing the attention. And it almost seems similar. Like, we have to put the brakes on some things. The pressure of being a parent with children, whether they're in elementary or, even preschool, but elementary or high school, when they're going for their SAT test or, thinking about college, which is and you feel like they haven't gotten a fair shake their senior year, which they haven't. I hear what you're saying about the guilt. Like, how could I make this better? And that's got to be a heavy weight.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're also all learning a lot, I think, about our strength in this, and about asking for what we need, and our kids too, about advocating and asking for what they need in this.
I like that. I like that role modeling idea, not to put more pressure on parents, but we are role modeling how to navigate challenging times. So that's a great thought. And when all else fails, just go watch Frozen, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, that's been my go-to solution a lot the last few months.
Right. And thank you, Amanda. What great advice.
Yes, thank you.
Give ourselves grace, give others grace, our family, our friends, and the community. So, Amanda, thank you so much. And we'll find out more and make sure on our website too and Facebook that we put the webinar information out to everyone so they can join. And thank you so much for your work and your partner's work with this parenting during the pandemic. It is, I'm sure you've saved a lot of hearts and minds out there.
Hope so. Thank you. Yeah, please keep sharing the resources. They're free. We want people to be able to access them, and whoever might find them helpful. And thank you all for your work as well in supporting our most vulnerable families. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll let our Healthy Families home visitors know that we see 120, 140 families a month. So they will be sharing their information. So thanks again. Thank you, Lisa. And to everyone listening today, thank you. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we'll see you next week.